In this video, we're going to look at reviewing results in the MeasureColor MultiSpot module. As you collect measurements, they will automatically apply to the correct graph depending upon the colors you have selected during your job setup. From this screen, I have 4 colors that are part of my job, and for each color I can see a scatter distribution of the measurements collected. For each color, in the upper left-hand corner I have the color name, in the upper right-hand corner the average delta E of all the measurements combined, a pass-fail indicator notifying me if I have any problems. In the lower left, a count of how many measurements I've collected in the sequence. Lower middle, the ChromaTrack best predicted delta E possible. And in the lower right, the average delta density from my database target. So very quickly, I can look around this screen and see the average results of the colors I've collected. If I'm looking for more detail, I simply click on one of the graphs to see that color specifically. Here we are looking at the blue, and if I go down to my visual history at the bottom, I can click on individual measurements to see how they are in comparison to the group. As I click on a color, I can see the color details in the window in the middle on the right, and I can see above that the average results for delta E, delta density, and delta H. Now, as I select a color on the bottom in my visual history, I can both see a comparison of how it looks compared to the standard in the background, and I can also see the ChromaTrack predictive result as to how this ink can be adjusted via density. In this case, I'm well within my tolerance, so there's probably no need to adjust this one. However, it is still useful to see where it'll go as I either decrease or increase density. As always with ChromaTrack, I can look on the bottom to see my optimal predicted result, which for this blue is at a density of 0.78 on the black filter, yielding a delta E of 0.55. So this ink, which is currently running 2 density points low at a delta E of 131, can be improved to a delta E of 0.55. Now, if I look for the caution signs, like this one over here on the right, I can see that one is significantly off track. Perhaps an issue of contamination or misformulation was present in this sample, but what the ChromaTrack tells me that's interesting is you can see that the ChromaTrack line runs parallel to the tolerance ellipse. This tells us that under no case, no adjustment in density, can I get this color to intersect my ellipse. This is a color that's going to be either need to be toned or reformulated, but the operator shouldn't waste any more time or materials on it as it cannot be corrected densitometrically. If I like more detail, I simply double click on that color to view it in the Spot Inspector. From here, I can move the graph around. I can see reference versus sample side by side. I can see the data table in the upper right, as well as the visual comparison telling me that it's too dark and too red based upon my standard. I can return to my scatter view now and analyze further colors. I can look at the purple, see what problems I have there, go back to scatter view, look at the brown, as well as the orange. And as I collect further measurements, the software will automatically keep up with me, changing the color that's on the display based upon the color that is measured. As I collect measurements, I collect them into sequences. We envision sequences being the set of measurements you make on one particular sample. When you move on to measuring a next sample, we consider that to be a new sequence. Over here in the Sequence Info Control panel on the right, we can see which sequence we're looking at, how many sequences have been measured, date and time that sequence was measured, whether it was a make-ready or production sequence, and how many total samples were collected in that set. We can also start a new sequence, leave remarks, or move back and forth through these measurement sets.